Well, hey everybody, welcome to Kim's Kitchen. I am here to welcome you to fall. I'm so excited that fall's here. Fall also always makes me think of making some jellies and jams, especially from some of the fall fruits that come on. So today I'm going to make pear honey. I'm going to get it started and then I'll come back and show you the finished product in the posts underneath in the comments. But I'm making a thing that I have loved for years called pear honey. Now, I don't know if you've ever made pear honey. Kind of funny that there is no honey in pear honey. And so what it is there's pineapple in pear honey. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do. First thing with making jellies and jams anymore, I do them in my deluxe cooking blender from Pampered Chef. The reason I love to do it in here is because once I put the fruit in here, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the blender base and I'm going to let it cook and heat up and cook and stir and do the work all on its own, and I don't have to stand over the stove and watch it. So that's a really great thing about having a blender that actually cooks too. So the deluxe cooking blender from Pampered Chef. And I'm going to use pears. A couple of products that I don't talk a lot about, but I use all the time. One is our Slimline Kitchen Scale. I love this because it's easy to store. You can see I stick it in one of those little side racks on top of my refrigerator, so it's very handy. I use a scale a lot for things like weighing out this fruit here, but also when I am baking like breads and things, I tend to weigh my ingredients, especially my flours, and I get a better result when I use a scale. So with that said, the scale's pretty easy to use, and you can put it down on your counter, and then I push the on button, or it's called tare. You push the tare button, T-A-R-E, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Then I'm going to use the unit button, and I'm going to move it to pounds because I need 3 pounds of pears for this. And so I'm just going to put a bowl on it. And then the tare button is when I touch it, then it takes it back to 0. So it doesn't have the weight of the bowl in there. And then now I can start putting my fruit or whatever it is that I'm weighing, my flour, inside of the bowl, and then I can see what my weight is. So here we go. I've got 3.19 pounds, and that's good enough for me. When you're making things like jellies and jams and stuff like that, the weight doesn't have to be exact like it does when you're baking and baking breads and things. So with that said, take that off, and again, the Pampered Chef Kitchen Scale is a must-have. Then what I'm going to do is I need to get the pears ready. So in this recipe goes my pears, my sugar, but my sugar is going to go in, well, it's going to go in with it. I lied. My pears and my sugar will go in together. And then I have some crushed pineapple that I had made. I didn't make the pineapple, but I don't know if you remember, you saw my video where I used the wedger, the pineapple wedger, and then I dice up my pineapple to make pineapple chunks and freeze it, and then I scrape the inside of the pineapple skin, those big pieces of skin, and I actually do that with our kernel cutter for corn on the cob. But I do that, and then I have crushed pineapple just from the inside of the skin. So it's a great way to save money. It's a great way to save and to be able to use the whole pineapple. Found pineapples this summer for $1 a piece, and you couldn't even buy a can of pineapple for that anymore. So I'll use the crushed pineapple, and then I'll use some lemon juice, a tablespoon of lemon juice. And this lemon juice is just, I did a video on that as well that you can look back for, and that is where I I zested and juiced all my citrus, and then I froze it in 1 tablespoon amounts, and then I put it in a bag, in one of our reusable storage bags, and freeze it. Then when I need it, and I only need a tablespoon instead of cutting up a whole lemon, or having to have one, then I've got this right here that I'm just thawing out. So again, with that said, we need to get the pears ready now, and I'm going to use an old favorite that everybody probably has is, and if you don't, you want, is our apple wedger. Our apple wedger is pretty cool because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 segments. And with an apple, what's really cool is you wedge it the core comes up the center, and then you get all those little pieces of your apple that, especially for the kids, they love it, but even for like big chunk apple pies, if you like that. And it's got a blade guard, so you can, when you store it away, it will keep it from cutting you, because it is sharp on the bottom. So be careful when the kids use it, but it's just a wedger. And let me show you how I do it with pears. I love it with pears to do pear spears. And again, then the core comes up the center and I can just throw the core away. But let me wedge on down. Look at those gorgeous pear spears you get. I know, aren't they lovely? And so then you can take your pear spears out, and then you can take your core, that's all that's left. It really does a beautiful job, and toss that core down the drain, down the disposal, or wherever it is. Sometimes you have a little tiny piece left. I just cut it off because, of course, for this, you can or you don't have to cut the skin off. If it's bad looking spots of skin, I might cut some of it off, but I might leave some of it on as well, because we tend to eat the skin when we eat a pear. But they actually, when they're in small pieces like this, they peel really nicely. Well, that didn't peel as nicely as I thought it was going to. But anyway, I just use a little sharp paring knife to do that. So as I go through this, I'll do one more pear in front of you. And then they're gorgeous pear spears, even if you just want to eat them. It's a fun way to do pears. With the apple wedger, the one other thing that you can do, well, there's probably a couple of others. Maybe you guys have some ideas, pop them in the chat. But another one of the things that you can do is like a blooming onion, where you kind of wedge down the onion and then you pull it back, push the onion back out the top way, and then you've got that kind of blooming onion that you find in restaurants. Very yummy that way as well. Again, the core, it's gone. And then I've got pears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually load this up with my pears. You could cut the little spots out beforehand if you want to, but no need if you just want to throw it in. I don't see any spots on the inside, so they are all going in. I'm going to fill the blender. Really, sometimes with jam, you might add a tiny bit of water, but I think these are pretty juicy. Pears are pretty juicy, so you won't have to. I'm going to add the sugar. I'm going to start this on the Deluxe Cooking Blender base right here and turn it on. And there's actually a setting for that that's called jam, and I'm going to use that setting. This is going to sit on there with the sugar, and then it's going to cook for, I don't know, 20 to 40 minutes, and it's going to bring it to a temperature of about 170. Then it's going to stop and it's going to say add. I'm going to add my lemon juice because I don't really want to cook the lemon juice down too long. The lemon juice, so we get some acid and some freshness in our jam. And then I'm going to add our crushed pineapple as well. And then it's going to take another about 5 minutes, and it's going to bring it up to about 200 degrees. And then your jam is done and ready to go. And then I will pour it into whatever size jars that I want to use for jelly. I like to use, not the teeny ones, I like to use, you know, a little bit bigger. I want to say they're 6 ounces. If you've been to the grocery store lately and you know how expensive jam is getting, then this makes it all worth it, you guys. And then I'll water bath can those, and I'll have jam for some pear honey jam for the winter. And, you know, a lot of times you can glean things, like people who have pear trees or apple trees, especially in the fall. You can go out and you can glean, and you can get free fruit, basically, just to go pick somewhere that you know somebody has them and they're falling off the tree and they don't use them anyway. So that's a good way to save money this winter on your jam and jelly budget. With that said, anything else I want to tell you, I will come back in the comments of this post and I will post some pictures of my finished product. But again, I wanted to share with you pear honey because it is that season. Welcome to fall, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and may all of your cooking be pampered. Oh, and all of your canning.